Should you buy the Apple Watch Series 5 in 2022? Welcome everybody to another review video. Today we are talking about the Apple Watch Series 5. So the Apple Watch Series 5 came out in 2019 and then it was followed by two newer models, the Apple Watch Series 6 and Series 7. So we're going to be going over some of the features of this thing, some of the practicalities of this watch, this versus these newer models, if this is going to be right for you, or if you're thinking you want to get a newer, nicer watch, or even potentially an older watch. So without further ado, let's jump right on in. So this version right here is the cellular version. The prices are pretty similar at this point. This watch is almost exclusively found refurbished these days, pretty much. Like, you're not going to be able to just go on Amazon and buy a new one. They're all going to be refurbished on Amazon, although potentially you could like go on eBay and buy like a secondhand used one, maybe open box, something like that. But let's go ahead and go over the features of this watch. So this has cellular capability. So basically, for an extra little bit of money per month on your phone bill, you're going to be able to add cellular, which makes your Apple Watch independent. So you can make calls, texts, listen to music, podcasts, that kind of thing. If your phone, say, dies, you leave your phone at home, anything like that happens, it's basically a second miniature phone. So this thing also has a GPS, compass, heart rate monitor, so some great features there. This also is the first model of the Apple Watches to include an always on display. So if you'll notice, my Apple Watch is not picked up right now, but you can see the screen is still on. So it's not always on to its fullest extent. If you lift it and if you raise it up to your face, it will get brighter, the screen will change slightly, and it will show your second hand on the clock, on the face, but you can always see your time regardless of whether you actually turn your wrist or not. So it does get dimmer to save battery, so it's gonna make so that actually has enough battery to keep that always on display. Of course, you can turn that off if that's not really a feature that you want, but it's definitely there if you want it. I personally love it. It does get dim enough, sadly, that it can be a little tricky to see if you're like outside in a really bright area. It can be a little bit difficult to see. Overall, have barely had issues with it. Some of the newer models like the 6 and 7 increase that standard brightness of when your watch is not like turned on, but it's showing the time. That brightness is that is brighter on some of the newer models, so that is definitely a pro to going with some of those newer models, the 6 and 7. So why would you want to buy this versus buying the Apple Watch Series 7, which is the newest current model? So basically, this is going to, if you buy a refurbished Apple Watch Series 5 cellular right now, it's going to cost about $200 on Amazon. Now there's some drawbacks, but we'll get to that shortly. And if you buy the Apple Watch Series 7 from Apple, it's going to cost you about $400 new. So you're looking at half the price. So definitely something you need to consider because it is a significant price gap. So something that this thing is not going to have is the blood oxygen measurements. So you're not going to be able to tell that with this. They added that in the Model 6, and so they have that in the 7 too, of course, but that's going to be a feature lacking from the Series 5, so it's not really something I need or really even want necessarily, but if you do want that, you're not going to find it in this model. So some of the drawbacks to buying this thing refurbished is that the battery health, like basically the max capacity from what this battery was new, was all the way down to 85% when I got it refurbished. So the 18-hour battery life reduced to about 13 and a half hours-ish with heavy use, but that was before I was using cellular. If you're using cellular, it's going to drop that pretty significantly, especially if your service is bad and it's working extra hard to find that service. But generally, you can just turn off your cellular, and then if you need it, turn it on. You're going to save so much battery. The issue is even 13 and a half hours, and this is with heavy use, so if you don't actually if you're not actually turning it on that much, you'll probably get more. That was right after I got it. Pretty excited about it. Used it a ton that day, and that was about 13 and a half hours. But for reference, if you start your job at 7 in the morning, it's going to be a goner by 8:30 that night, and that might be about when your phone is dying and when you would actually want the watch to help you out. So something that you can do is kind of offset those batteries, not really use your watch too much until a little bit later in the day. That way it'll extend out through your evening, whatever you got going on. If your phone dies, you have a backup phone on your wrist. So something that is a bummer is that on this Series 5 Apple Watch, when you reply to a text, you cannot actually draw on a physical keyboard like you can with the Apple Watch 7. With the Apple Watch 7, it actually has a real keyboard pop-up, versus on the Series 5, you actually have to like draw it out with your finger. It's not super practical. You can voice text, but you don't always want to be speaking at your watch. You know, there are public places in this world that exist, and you don't always want to be just talking to your watch. This thing also has some phenomenal fitness tracking features. It tracks your exercise, it tracks your time exercising, your time moving, your time standing, gives you the amount of steps that you've taken in a day. Let's check it out. What do we got? 8,359 steps. Not too bad. Total distance 4 miles. Flights of stairs climbed was 8. So we have like bunch of different stuff we can go through here. This thing is fantastic if you listen to stuff like while you're working, to change your podcast, change your music. It can all be done from your watch face, which is just really nice. You can use Hey Siri with this. You can record voice memos. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can even, and all of that with a significant variety of watch faces that you're going to be able to use. Including this sweet portrait one where it kind of puts the numbers behind someone's face when you're with a picture that comes out of portrait mode. Now with that Series 7, you are going to get a bigger display. They pushed out those bezels a little farther. As you can see, this one does still have some bezels, especially if you turn it on the white face. It's really going to make it pop where the edge of that screen is. If you use a dark face, though, it makes it feel like your screen is bigger because it kind of just fades off rather than like that sharp contrast. So to me, that micro difference isn't really a big deal, but to some people, they do want, you know, the biggest screen possible. And I think even a bigger deal than that would be having an actual keyboard for text replies. That would be super handy. So what are you really getting with this watch right here versus the Apple Watch Series 7, which is going to cost about double the price? So for double the price, you are getting blood oxygen tracker, along with a better battery life, better screen, an actual keyboard on your watch, a faster processor, and of course a couple other things. But even with all that, you still got to look at the price. $200 versus $400 is pretty significant. So like many of these kind of couple-year-old things, it really just comes down to your budget and how much you value those extra features. If you value them, you know, an extra $200, go for it. The Series 7 will not disappoint. That is a fantastic watch from what I know. But if you're trying to save some money, this is absolutely not a bad way to go, and I would definitely recommend it if you're trying to save a little money. This thing is still a phenomenal smartwatch, and I definitely would recommend buying this if your budget is a little bit on the lower side. So those are my thoughts on the Apple Watch Series 5. Now, of course, I didn't go into nearly all the features of this Apple Watch. If you have questions, drop them down below. I will try to answer those. But thank you everyone so much for watching. Link in description if you want to go buy yourself one of these or one of the other Apple Watch series, as well as links to a couple more reviews just to help you out, kind of some pointer guides. I didn't cover nearly everything. Hopefully these other reviews, you know, if you want to learn more about this, these are some great resources. So without further ado, I will see you all in the next video. So this thing has some phenomenal